One reason Steve doesn't go into, I would argue, is foreign policy realism. If you were to ask me what was the most moral initiative taken in the last few decades in foreign policy, many of you would probably say Richard Holbrooke in Bosnia, and that would be a good answer. I'll give you a better answer, Richard Nixon in China. Now, Nixon's motives were very, very realpolitik, not particularly uplifting. But what Nixon did was he said to the Chinese, you don't have to worry about Taiwan. We don't believe in the fiction that Taiwan's independent. You don't have to worry about the Soviets because we're teamed up with you now against the Soviets. You don't have to worry about the Japanese, whose economy was just starting to boom then. We'll take care of the Japanese. That's our responsibility. And he gave them a whole bunch of other assurances. And what did that do? For the first time in decades, or since the Hai Qing dynasty at the turn of the 19th century, China felt secure on the outside and could devote itself to internal development. And that set the context for Deng Xiaoping's liberalization. And Deng Xiaoping's liberalization not only lifted hundreds of thousands of Chinese out of stark poverty to approaching the middle class, but because China became the largest trading partner of almost everywhere else in East Asia, it also lifted millions of Vietnamese, Malaysians, and others Filipinos into a much higher standard of living, so that literally billions of people saw their material lives and their safety improve dramatically because of this initiative. Another reason, why was there why was the peace so long? Because you had realists like Dwight Eisenhower and others who, one thing about Eisenhower people forget, it was under him that all the hydrogen bombs were built. And why did he build it? Because he didn't want to fight a real war on land in Europe. He wanted something so terrible but also so cheap, because nuclear weapons were cheap compared to preparing for actual conventional warfare. So the Cold Warriors, rather than be parodied in Dr. Strangelove, actually kept the peace in many ways.
One of the problems is that so-called realism had predictions that are all over the map, literally and figuratively. So one realist theory says, well, you get peace when you have a single hegemon. That's what's really stable, because they can kind of bully everyone else. They can be a quasi-Leviathan. Then another one says, well, no, you get peace when you have a balance of power. You need two. That way each one keeps the other one deterred. Another one is multipolar. That's the best. So it's not really clear what so-called realism actually predicts. And it seems to me that there are a lot of developments surrounding the long peace and what I call the new peace, that is the spread of the long peace to the rest of the world since the fall of the Soviet Empire, that don't obviously fit any realist narrative, including the one that appeals to nuclear deterrence. For example, the fact that non-nuclear states, Latin American states, for example, Germany and Italy, or Italy and Spain, have not fought each other, even though I think it would be far-fetched to think that if they started a war, the United States would nuke either of them in punishment. The fact that you've had a lot of non-nuclear states defying nuclear ones, Argentina trying to take back the Falklands, defying Britain, a nuclear power, Saddam Hussein thumbing his nose at the United States repeatedly, Sadat invading Israel-held Sinai. And the fact that there doesn't seem to be a whole lot of relationship between military expenditures and probability of actually getting into a war. And East Asia might be a perfect example where for the last 25 years, I don't think there have been any shooting wars in East Asia. I guess North Korea and South Korea with the sinking of that ship 2 years ago that did kill 40-odd South Korean sailors. But it's actually been a pretty stable part of the world if you actually tally up people killed in warfare. China, contrary to all predictions that rising great powers always pick on their neighbors, hasn't been in a shooting war since 1987, a better track record than some countries we happen to belong to, where the United States has been in a number of shooting wars.